everybody. Welcome to multi-sided sponsoring training today. So this is for our CACFP group. If you are multi-sided, or if you're going multi-sided, meaning you have one agreement number and you're having sites underneath that. So we're going to go over, you guys have extra requirements if you are a sponsor. So we're going to go over those extra requirements that you need to be doing. And we go a little bit over kind of the application. I haven't pulled from the new application. I actually don't know if it's any different, but the same information I know that we are collecting. So I just want to make sure that you guys know what we mean by it and what is to go there. So again, our federal fiscal year is from October 1st to September 30th. So we're just now starting, we're in fiscal year 2023 of where we're going. And again, we do all of our reviews unannounced. And while I'm kind of talking, I'm going to ask a little poll question. So if you guys don't mind answering, just gives me an idea of who I have on. If you're new, if you've been on for a while, if maybe your organization has been multi-sided, but you're new to the process, and then what your role is, just to kind of, again, give me a better idea of who I have on today. So if you guys don't mind, oh, perfect. So one, it sounds like this might be a refresher. New. Perfect. And I'll give you just a minute or so you guys can answer. New, all right. New. So this will be interesting. All right. Okay. So we have some fairly newer people on today, it looks like, which is good. That's why we're here, to help you guys out. So these are some of the questions. We have mostly new. And then it looks like everybody's a director. Great. So let's go over again. So we do all of our reviews unannounced, and as we always tell everybody, to make sure that your records are readily available for review. So what we mostly see for people that are multi-sided is you keep your records, like after the end of the month, all records, usually for all sites, end up going to a central site. And so that is the information that is put into the application agreement. And then that's where our program specialists are going to go to do the review. Is when they come to do their unannounced, they're going to go to that site where your records are stored. Now, you may be doing something different, but what we most commonly see is all sites end up taking their information to one central location. And just a reminder, so you guys are filling out your applications right now. When you're filling them out, you can make any changes that you want, but after you approve it, it's submitted and it's approved, then at that time, you do have to go in and update any changes that you make, and then let us know. But during the renewal time, just make any changes that you want, but it's when you're changing that application after it's approved, that's when you need to go in and make sure that you make any changes. Now, I don't know if we have some new people on here, but if you're doing your renewal application, just a reminder, so right now, if you submit your application today on November 2nd for the first time, you originally submitted today, we cannot pay you for October. We can only pay you on the day. So whatever month that you originally submit your application. So whenever you submit it, it doesn't mean it's completely approved. We may have some stuff, but it's the date that you originally submit it. Whatever month that's in, we can pay you for that month. So if you do not originally submit your application until November, we cannot, your super doesn't want to begin until we are sure to get paid. So if you're brand new, like brand new, that's different than a renewal. Okay, so that's different than a renewal. So that's if you're just renewing your application. If you're brand new and you're filling out the application, say right now, once your application is approved, then what we do is we send a box to your program specialist, and that's the person that comes out to do your review. We send them a box. It has your manuals in it. It has all other information that you need. Then they have 30 days to come out, and they do what's called an approval visit. You cannot start until your program specialist does an approval visit and approves you. So even though they come out, which if you're a school, since you have a superintendent, since you're a school, but we've had some people like we haven't been able to approve, and it's just because like the location doesn't exist. Like we would show up, there's no building there. So it's very rare that we can't approve somebody, but if you are brand new, once your application is completed, then and it's approved, then they send the box to the program specialist, and then they have 30 days to come out. They will contact you. It's not unannounced. They will contact you and be like, hey, this is my schedule. When can I come out to do the approval visit? So expect a couple of hours for it, because they will be going over information with you. So it's not just a quick, okay, let's start. They do have to go over information with you. So it is about a 2 to 3 hour process for the approval visit. Now, this is our website. This is a very important website. This is where you go to, if you log in, you do your application. If you log in, and you can enter your claims here. But the one thing that we do like everybody to be aware of is our resource library. You do not have to log in to have access to our resource library. Again, we keep everything out here. If you don't have a manual yet, you can go out there and look at the manual. CACFP, we do give you one depending on the program that you're at. We have an at-risk section, adult daycare section, meal pattern section, multi-sided section. So a lot of the stuff we're talking about today may only be in the multi-sided section as it only appears to you. And again, some of this is just refresher stuff. We just kind of go over it in all of our trainings. But as a reminder with the business maintenance page that we did update it last year. And again, this right here, the owner, executive director, and superintendent, you guys cannot change this. It can only be changed in our office. Now down here, you guys can do this. You do not have to send us anything, but we really suggest anybody else that is helping with the program needs to be listed down here. Maybe your cook, maybe if it's someone who's doing the claim, that's different than either the owner, executive director, superintendent, but anybody else who needs the information, put them right here. Now, soon, from what I understand, before the year 2022 ends, right now, all emails that we send out go to this person up here. But if you have anybody listed here, they will also receive all of our emails. So I highly suggest it. Again, up here, we have to have a certificate of authority. Down here, we do not. You can enter the information down here. And this is in the business maintenance page when you go to that at the very, very top. Now, at the bottom of that business maintenance page, as a reminder, this is where you put your fiscal year. So ours is October 1st to September 30th. I know we have some schools on here, so yours would be July 1 to June. So you go in and put that information because it is different for everybody. And then if you're brand new, this right now may say Cassie Riddell. If it does, it means you're not approved yet. Once you are approved, she assigns it to an office staff. We have 3. We have Jennifer Pryor, Lori Burrows, and Lisa King. So that is the person that does, so after Cassie originally approves it, the next year when you do your renewal or anything that you need to have done, like if you have called your UEI, I never remember it anymore. If you make changes to it, this is the person, whoever's listed there, that you would contact. They are responsible for your application. And then the field staff is the person who does come out to do your review. So again, if you have any questions for your program specialist, they will be listed here so you know who it is. And then all trainings that you attend, I haven't changed this yet. I changed all the other trainings yesterday, but this has been updated. This is your training record. So if you registered in the training calendar, your information is already showing up down here. And it now says how many hours, and it also says your name. And then once you attend, which we're having quite a few trainings right now again. So we say, just give us a week, but it doesn't usually take that long. But again, like I've been out and it's getting close to the holidays. We have to use leave and stuff. So give us about a week. And then if you've attended the full training, then you will see this marked. If it's not marked, it means it was not completed or it wasn't, the training wasn't done. Again, if it's been after a week and you still don't see this, then you can contact our office. You can contact Sherry Osley and she can look into it. Okay, so now let's talk about some of the stuff. And we've had discussions about this because we do have a new form, and everybody's sites are done differently and when you're multi-sided, and we understand that. So I'm going to go over what we're going to tell you. And if you feel like you're doing something different, contact or talk to your program specialist. So if you are brand new coming onto the program, this is something you can talk to your program specialist about when they come out to do your approval visit. So you have to do what's called an expenditure reimbursement worksheet. And again, I understand we have some schools on here, so they may allow you just to do your OCAS coding. But again, this is something that, if you've already had a review as well, do what you've always done because your program specialist has been out there. But we do require that you do one expenditure reimbursement worksheet per site. Now we have some people that you're a central kitchen or you prepare everything and then you send the food out to the site. So again, that may not work for your facility. If it doesn't, again, talk to your program specialist because they are aware of how you're set up. And they may say, no, you don't need to do one, but we really would like everyone to do one expenditure reimbursement worksheet for each site. Because when you're multi-sited, when we come out to do a review, say you have 5 sites. If you have 5 sites, then we only have to review 1 site. And if you don't break it out, then we have to end up looking at all sites. So, but you may have a way of doing it. And again, you may be central kitchen. It could be something like that, that you just can't do the expenses that way. Now, schools are required to do things by site. That's per OCAS. So with the expenditure reimbursement worksheet, just want to let you know that if you're multi-sited, we do need one per site. And I don't really go over what it is because we go over that in other trainings. But some questions we have had about the expenditure reimbursement worksheet is what goes on there. So it's everything that's allowable for the food program. And schools understand this because of what they do, but what we've had questions on is there are some items that don't count as like a meat alternate or don't count as a grain and stuff like that. So what can go on there is items like, say, pepperoni. Pepperoni is not a meat alternate, but it is an ingredient that you use as part of a reimbursable meal. So maybe your kids don't like cheese pizza. They don't like sausage pizza, but they love pepperoni. Well, you want to give them something that they will eat. If you gave them noodles, you're going to put cheese sauce on it to make macaroni and cheese. Again, the Velveeta is not accreditable, like it is not a meat alternate, but the noodles are. It's part of the reimbursable meal. So it's just kind of an extra item, but we call it more like an ingredient to make the meal taste better. So those are allowable costs and they can go on your expenditure reimbursement worksheet. So with CACFP, because I have some schools on here. So for CACFP, there are some items that are unallowable. Items like donuts, cookies, I'm trying to think like cake, brownies, anything that's sweet and called a dessert, those are unallowable. So those cannot be on the expenditure reimbursement worksheet for CACFP because those are a standalone item and they're not creditable. Sugary cereals, they're also not allowed to be on here and they have to be marked out. It's not an allowable CACFP cost. And again, if you're not familiar with what the expenditure reimbursement worksheet looks like, this is it right here. What this does tell us, like I said, I don't go over much into it because we do talk about it in all of our other trainings, but this is what is done per site and how a lot of you are set up. Like we have some multi-sites where it's literally like you have their own separate daycare centers and really only the information at the end of the month goes to one person to pile everything together and make that claim. So again, this is everything that's allowable and they have like the trucks that go directly to there or they do their own shopping. So again, this is the expenditure reimbursement worksheet. This is what is needed per site. And we do have another form that we have added this year that I will be talking about. But the reason we need these forms is what it does is it shows us how you spent your child nutrition funds. Because the money that we give you, you can't make a profit on. So what we kind of say is especially for our daycare side, so if we're giving you around our $1,000 reimbursement, you should be spending around that amount, but you can carry some forward. We have what's called a 3-month operating balance, which again, schools are very familiar with. And they are ordered together. Again, that's what I would talk to your program specialist about when they come out to do your approval visit about the expenditure reimbursement worksheet. Again, it's not meant, we did it because the majority of our centers need this, but it may not be feasible for you. And you may already be doing your OCAS coding and whoever your program specialist is, which will probably be the person whoever does your school stuff. More than likely, it should be the person that does your school stuff. They may allow you just to do your OCAS coding and give that to them. So what they'll do. So again, it gets really hard because we've talked about this and the reasons we made these changes. Well, this actually was never a change. But looking into it and looking at all of our facilities, this does not work for everybody just because of the way you're set up. So just kind of want to let you know of it may not be feasible for you. And if you've already had a review, which I know some of you are brand new, but if you've already had a review, again, just do what you keep doing, because your program specialist obviously sees that what you've been doing is correct. Now, when you are multi-sited, you can charge off like administrative labor and operating labor. But the only thing is when you go multi-sited, your administrative labor cannot be more than 15% of your total reimbursement for the year. So, and a lot of people don't tend to always do administrative labor anyway, but there is a requirement. If you're multi-sited, you can't go over the 15% threshold. So I know if you're brand new, you kind of don't know what your reimbursement is, but for multi-sited administrative labor, so like if you're charging off the labor that you're doing for, say, claiming, putting all the paperwork together, you cannot charge off more than 15%. Just for admin labor. There is no requirement. There's no cap for operating labor. So that's like your food service labor, helping serve meals, cook meals, anything like that. There's no cap on. As we always state, that anything like that you charge off to CACFP, it has to be in the budget. And schools this year, again, you're not required to do a budget this year, which is great. It streamlined it to what you do for the National School Lunch Program. But for those of you that do have to do a budget, whatever you want to charge off has to be in the budget. You cannot charge off more than what's approved in the budget. So let's just say that you have like an employee, and you're paying them $8 an hour right now, but they have a chance to maybe you might give them a raise up to $12 an hour. If you only put the $8, like their total $8 in there, you cannot be charging off the 12 or whatever it is that the total amount for that 12. What I would tell you to do is if you could give them a raise, to put the top dollar amount in there that they might be making. That way you don't have to go back in and update your budget. You also cannot charge off more than what the employee is being paid. It's kind of another same thing. I also had a situation where I was at a daycare center and they charged off $1,000 of labor for the cook, which sounds very reasonable. But because we do verify everything with pay stubs, and when I looked at the pay stubs, that this person was only paid $1,200 per year. So she was only making $200 a month. You cannot charge off more than what's being paid. If you're an owner, and this happens quite a bit, especially if you are new opening up, if you are an owner and you're not paying yourself, you cannot charge that off to us because we have nothing to validate that. It has to be actual charges that you're making that is being paid off. So you can't, not pay yourself and then charge off to CACFP something that's actually not really being paid. If you pay any labor with cash, Venmo, or Cash App, or any PayPal, any of those, it's not allowable unless you can show us that taxes were paid. And then labor reported can only be W-2. We can't accept a 1099. The only way we can accept a 1099 is if what you have to do is write a contract, send it to us. We have to approve it first, and then you have to go out on proper procurement for your employees. So if you don't want to do that, then you just can't charge off your 1099 employees. It can only be W-2. So as I mentioned, every site has to do its own expenditure revenue reimbursement worksheet. So at the end of the month, when you take that information, you have to transfer it all over to this new form that we have, which is called a sponsor and site profit and loss worksheet. So what this is so as you can see here, this is for the center Toys and Noise. Actually, we probably should put that up here as well, but it's for Toys and Noise. And then they have 4 sites. They have Western site, Eastern site, North site, and South site. So what they did is they took all of their expenditure reimbursement worksheets, and they took the Western site and they just transferred everything over here. And as you can see, the Toys and Noise is the sponsor, and they had some administrative costs because you might have something at the sponsor level that was not done at any of the sites, which happens quite a bit. So you would take all your expenditure reimbursement worksheets for that month and for every site, and then transfer it over here. The site code is the site that we have in our system. And then again, the S is just for the sponsor. So again, you would just transfer everything over, and it lets us know in this last column, this is the expenses, and this is the reimbursement that you got per site. Because even in CACFP, we do claim by site. So you would know what the reimbursement is for each site that you claimed for. Okay, so what are some other records? So some of the other records is, again, we've just been telling this to everybody. So again, all forms must be maintained daily by month at each site for any institution and participating in CACFP. So even your sites, when you go out there, they should be keeping their paperwork. All records have to be kept at the location on site that's approved. So make sure that is a correct site where your records are, because that's where we're going to show up to come and do our unannounced reviews. And even if you're a school district, we do these reviews unannounced. And I guess I should also say, because we do these unannounced and under CACFP, so schools get a review once every 5 years. CACFP, we cannot go longer than 3. So you can get a review every 2 to 3 years. So it won't be in the same school year. Maybe the first time it will be, like if you're up for review, it would be, but normally it will not be in the same year as your school review, because we have to do reviews for CACFP every 2 to 3 years. And I'll explain more. With all records, you make sure you have current year records. So we're going into 2023 right now. But you need to have your records for 2022, 2021, and 2020. You have to keep current year plus the past 3 records. So anything after, maybe though you have an accountant and you keep records for 5 years, that's fine. But with USDA, you only have to keep current year plus past 3-year records. When I say with CACFP that you could get reviewed every 2 to 3 years, the reason for this is because, again, it's very different than the school side. This program is completely different than the school side. When it comes to schools, you just get reviewed once every 5 years whenever you're in a cycle. When it comes to childcare side, the CACFP, what happens is every year we have a requirement of reviewing 34% of whoever is participating in CACFP. So like 1 year when I was in the field, I had like 7 sites close and 2 of them were up for review. So I had to pull 2 more reviews. So sometimes it just depends, but we are required by USDA to review 34% of our centers. So that's why we could be, depending on the year, we could be reviewing you every 2 or 3 years. So even if all come to the main site, okay, so when they're doing their paperwork each day, it should still be at the site. But if they're filling out the production records every day at site, they should be doing attendance records at the site. But at the end of the month, when you're going to claim, all that usually information is usually all at one site. If you guys send them back out to all the sites to keep there, that's fine too. It's just what we more commonly see with a sponsor is once all the paperwork is sent to one site so they can do the claim, they usually end up keeping all the paperwork there. So it's really however you choose to do it. Just let your program specialist know. But that's what we typically see is, yes, they're doing the paperwork at that site every day. But at the end of the month, whoever's doing the claim, they usually get all the paperwork and submit the claim. And then they usually just keep all that paperwork at that site. So if you're doing something different, that's fine. But just make sure your program specialist is aware. So again, someone has to have access to all the records at all times. So if you're not going to be there, we do tell people, if you know you're not going to be there, then let us know. Like, we understand if you're a school that you're going to be out holidays, we have the school calendar. But if maybe we've talked to somebody, she's like, I always take off the month of July. If you know something like that, then let us know, because we really don't like coming out when you're not going to be there. If you know, like you may be out for a conference or anything like that. But if you are, we understand we all get sick, things happen. But when we come out to do a review, the records do have to be produced within 1 hour of the specialist arriving for us to do the review. Not saying we have to get every piece of paperwork, but we should start getting paperwork within an hour of us being there. So just make sure somebody does know where they're at in case you are not there and you're the one who's mostly in charge of records. Now, building for the future, it's this form. I'm going to show it to you right here. So because I know I have some schools on here today, if you're a daycare, if you are multi-sited, you're required, if you take this page, you fill this little box out and send it to our office. We have to have a copy of it every year. I don't know why, we just do. But when it comes to the building for the future, if you are just a center, you just are a nonprofit who does at risk, this needs to be given out to every child every year. It lets them know that you're participating in the program. Now, school districts, you don't so much have to send this out to everybody because you also participate in the school lunch program. But what we would suggest is maybe hanging this up by your poster and then maybe have a small stack if a child wants to take it. So, but this does have to be distributed annually, but that's the best way to do it. That if you're just a daycare center, or if you are in a nonprofit organization that does at-risk only, Head Start, if you're any of those, give this out every year to your parents. But again, if you're a school, you can hang one up by your Justice for All poster, but we would have maybe set a small stack in case kids want to take them. So you don't have to print out 1,000 of these and give them out to all of your kids. It is required to do inventory per site. Again, you may have a central kitchen, you may have something like that. If you have a central kitchen, just make sure you keep it for your central kitchen. Now, we do have in there, if you ever need it, is because we ran across a lot of this during COVID, because you have to keep everything separate, like your receipts usually are separate, not always, but what we tend to see, like I said, we have a lot of multi-sided that they have, say, 5 sites, and they're very separate, like they do their own grocery shopping, they do everything on their own. But like during COVID, we had like a lot of centers that maybe you had 5 and you shut down 3 of them, but kept 2 open. Well, you're not going to just leave the food there. You want to use the food. So we have what's called a transfer of food form that you can use, because we're not going to show that you have receipts for this stuff, but you can show that it was sent from another location. Schools, you can already use the system that you have in place. I don't think we have anybody in here that's a family daycare home sponsor, but if you do, you're not required to keep inventory because you don't buy food. You're just a sponsor to family daycare homes. Okay, so let's talk about policies and procedures. Now, if you can see here, there's an S and it says S-77, and you've seen that a little bit. We give you, and if you don't have a copy of it, it's about 100 pages. If you go to the resource library, under the multi-sided section, we have it's called the sponsor section. It's a small section that goes into your manual. You only get it if you are a sponsor, and anything that starts with an S, it's going to be found in that sponsor section, including the policies and procedures. So it is required that you have to submit to us policies and procedures that you created. We have to keep them on file. We have them in the little sponsor and site section, the sponsor section. But if you go out to the resource library under the multi-sided section, we have them all there in Word. So you can go in there, you need to put your name on it and look through it to make sure that's what you guys are doing, because that has to be your policies and procedures. So if we come out and there's an issue and we look at your policies and procedures and that's not what you're doing, then that's going to be a finding. So just look at them and update them. Now, they only have to be sent to us once, unless you make any changes. Now, when you first come on, for job descriptions right now, we'll just accept like the cook's job description, the monitor's job description, and the director's job description. Now, you don't have to create something for us. Just give us the job descriptions that you already said that you put online or wherever you put it when you're hiring. Now, anybody that has any CACFP duties, we will eventually need their job descriptions as well. But we understand that this could be a little bit overwhelming at first. So that's why we only require those 3. But if you've been on the program, you should start sending us the rest of your job description for other job duties. We have to have appeal procedures, because so you go monitor your sites, which we're going to talk about monitoring. You go and monitor your sites. And if they have a lot of issues at your sites, you can declare your own site seriously deficient. So that's why you have to have seriously deficient procedures. And Cassie does want to do a seriously deficient training this year. So look for that to be coming, more on that. And then if you do declare your site seriously deficient, they have to have appeal procedures. And then you also have sponsoring organization policies, which this could be your handbook, and you can just send us the information from that. And there's also, you have to have site policies. So let's just say that your site policies are like, the CACFP paperwork will be sent to the main office by the 5th of every month. I mean, you have to give us policies about the sites. And then again, we have a copy of all of that. We only have to have it once. You don't have to send it to us again unless you make changes. And as mentioned earlier about the minimum job duties, is especially if you're new, we have to have director, cook, and your monitor job descriptions. But again, we do eventually need all jobs that do include CACFP duties once you get more familiar with the CACFP, especially if you're brand new. And we did add a seriously deficient policy section this year too. I mean, it is part of your policies, but we did add a complete seriously deficient policy section to our sponsor manual this year. I will tell you, so USDE does have a book, and we will usually refer you to that book. It's called the Seriously Deficiency Suspension and Appeals for State Agencies and Sponsoring Organizations. Once you are multi-sided, you are considered a sponsoring organization. So again, Cassie would like to do some seriously deficient policies. So this would be if you have sites that are seriously deficient, maybe if you become seriously deficient, and just more information about it. So, and then again, we look for us to be having trainings. We'll probably send out an email when we start doing it, but I know that's something that we're working on. It probably won't be until 2023 because we got to get through all these applications right now. So if you need to add or remove a site, so once you're already on the program and you want to add a site, then you do need to, so if you're brand new, you're applying right now, you're probably aware of the process, you have to send us a VCA or your management plan. You do have to check to make sure the NDL list. So what the NDL list, if you're not aware, so this happens in childcare on the CACFP side. If say you are declared seriously deficient, meaning your review did not go very well at all, and then we come back out to do another review, it's still, those areas were not fixed. If that's the case, then you can get terminated from the program. And if you get terminated from the program, you cannot do CACFP or have anything to do with CACFP for 7 years. It's called the NDL list. So when you are a sponsoring organization, you have to look at the NDL list to make sure that nobody is helping with doing any of the CACFP stuff is on this list, because they cannot help at all with CACFP if they are on the NDL list. We also have to have a copy of your license or information from on DSX. If you're a DHS exemption, schools, you don't have to do that. Required documentation if you're at risk. We have to have your area map. If you're a site, if you're a school, we just need your low income report. And then if you have anybody, if you contract meals, like if you contract meals, a lot of times Head Start will contract with a school district, then we have to have a copy of the agreement to furnish food. So if you do add a site, before you can add a site, so say you're already approved and you want to add a site on your current application, you have to submit to us the documentation. We do have a form in there, and we have instructions in the sponsor section manual, and we have instructions online in the resource library. So just follow what that says. So if you want to add a new site for at risk or add a new site for CACFP if you're a daycare center, we also have a checklist that you can use that might be helpful if you're adding these sites. When you add a site, you can't just once it's in the system, you can't just automatically start claiming at that site. Again, you have to have an approval visit from your program specialist. But when your program specialist comes out, it's not a big approval visit like the first time that you do it. They just have to come out to make sure the site exists and just look at the facility. So it's not near like it was before, because you would be surprised if you have not had an approval visit before. One question on the approval visit is, does this center exist? Because that has happened where we show up and there's not even a building there. Again, we have to have a copy of your DHS license, or we have information regarding that you have a DHS exemption. You fill out that exemption form and send it to Cassie, except if you are a school, you are exempt from this because we know that you do not need a license. But if you are new, otherwise, you can fill out that form to let her know that you're not. Now, and when you're renewing, when you're coming back on the program, you still have to check the NDL list annually. So all you have to do is, in the manual, in the sponsor section, we have a page. It's called the NDL registration. It helps you get registered for the site. Once you're registered, you just have to go in and check and take a screenshot showing that you logged in, and it is required at renewal for sponsors. So again, if you don't know how to have a registration, you can go to page S15 and it is there, but you have to do that every year, especially if you get new staff. We have to make sure that these new staff are not on this NDL list. Now, I don't think this will really maybe apply to anybody in here, but if you are an unaffiliated site, so we mostly see this in at-risk, with at-risk for those that are just a nonprofit organization, is so let's just say like me, I work at the Department of Education, but I don't own the building. I'm just a state employee. If I wanted to serve meals here, because I don't own the building, I'm I have no affiliation besides the fact that I just work here. I would have to have an unaffiliated site agreement form just so everybody is aware that I'm having a feeding site here, that it's okay, that the State Department of Education would allow me to do that. So if you have a site, a feeding site at some place that is not affiliated with your organization, we have to have this agreement. It's used a lot too, because we've had some people that they would have maybe a site at a school or a site at a church, and it's just so that they are aware that you are having that someone is having a CACFP site there. Now, if you have a site that that's no longer participating, then just fill out the remove site form and send that to our office, and we will get that taken off. So now we're going to talk about a little bit about the online application. I'm not going to go through a whole, like, what I really want to show you, and again, this is kind of an old application. I know it looks a little bit different now. But this is, I just kind of want to show, well, I just want to show you, because all the information is still the same. It just, the layout may be different. So what I want to show is, again, this is administrative labor, all this information that was listed here. And again, I need to get new screenshots now that the new application has come out. But as you can see here, and it doesn't, if for anybody filling out an application, it doesn't matter if you're multi-sited or not. You have to list all salaries for your entire institution. We have to make sure you're called financially viable, which you probably learned about in training. So we have to know your entire center's labor. Well, this is the administrative labor, and this entity wanted to charge off $40,000, but we only approved $12,000, and I'll explain why we did that. So again, in the budget, all expenses approved will be in that last column. Just so you are aware, there are some things that you may want to charge off for CACFP expenses that we may ask for additional information. So don't think you're doing anything wrong, but like if you're using CACFP funds for traveling, maybe some equipment, we may ask to see an invoice, or we need to see some other documentation. It's just part of it. And again, even if you're not charging labor off to CACFP, we still have to have the institution section in the budget. We have to know how much that you have. Again, we have to make sure that you're financially viable. So that was the top part for administrative funds. So this is the bottom for operating expenses. Again, this is what they listed here. This is what was approved. And again, this is the old application, but again, it's mostly just information sharing so you guys are aware. So in this part D, this is for sponsors only. So they told us what their projected CACFP reimbursement is for the year. And if you're brand new, you're not going to know, but just put something in here. And I mean, Cassie and them probably walked you through that. But this is how much they think that they're going to get reimbursement based on past year's records of what they received. Now, again, for the administrative portion, they wanted to charge off $40,000. Well, again, if you're a sponsor, your administration cannot be more than 15%. And in this case, the 15% is $16,500. So that's why we approved them only for the $12,000 and not the 40. And it was because of the way the employees were listed at the time. It'd be like have to have a half an employee. So we do have to make sure that you do not go over that 15%. That's what it does in our application and agreement. And again, the budget is projected. It's just what you think. This must be updated as throughout the year. So if you look at it, and when we come out to do a review and we see that you're kind of going over, it's an annual budget. And we understand some months you're going to spend more, some months you're going to spend less. But just keep an eye on it, because we can't let you go over your budget. And we do look at this whenever we ask for your end of the year report. And then again, CACFP or schools that are doing CACFP do not have to do a budget. And then, so CACFP, we do offer training. We did do it frequently, but we're now going to be doing it the first Tuesday of every month. So that has been changed now that the application side is winding down. Again, we do check for financial viability. So that's why we have to see your total expenses. And then we ask to see your total revenue that you get. So that's one reason we have to ask for your entire institution. And we're talking an organization. It's not just CACFP. Now for schools, we'll take all of child nutrition. But if you're part of like military or a hospital, we don't need to see everything with the hospital or the base. We just need to see your child nutrition section. But if you're a daycare center, we have to see your entire center's all of them, your profit and loss. We have to make sure that you're financially viable. So we see your total expenses and your total revenue. That's why it needs to be included in the budget. And again, with financial viability, you should have learned in training. And with financial viability is that you do not need our funds to keep your doors open, that you don't. So the point of CACFP, so the school side and CACFP are very different, but with CACFP, you should already be able to serve these meals and not need our funds. The purpose of CACFP is to provide more nutritious meals or maybe food that kids wouldn't have access to otherwise. So again, that's really what financial viability is. So that's what we have to ask for all of your revenue and all of your expenditures. Now, if you are brand new coming on, you're probably aware of this, or if you were SD, meaning seriously deficient in the previous year, before you can come back onto the program, you have to fill out the paper document VCA, which is being financially viable, capable, and accountable to be on the program. So we don't have any family, I don't think we have any family daycare home sponsors on here today, but they have what we call a 10% carryover that they are allowed to have. So it doesn't apply to anybody but family daycare home. And when we do come out talking about financial viability, we do have to see documentation to make sure that you are financially viable. We will take for schools your revenue expenditure report for code 700. We'll use a year-to-date report, profit and loss sheet. Maybe you have an accountant, maybe you use QuickBooks. We'll use anything that you have. We'll use an annual report, monthly, quarterly. So like if you have an accountant and they give you a quarterly report, we'll use the last one that you have. Maybe QuickBooks, you use a monthly report, we'll take that. So, but we do have to make sure when we come out to do review, one, that you're in a nonprofit status. That's what with the expenditure reimbursement worksheets for, to make sure that you're not over your 3-month operating balance for that month. Now, I will tell you, when you're bringing in the end of the year report, if you do go over your 3-month operating balance, don't freak out about it. If you go over it, all we're going to do is ask you how you're going to spend the funds. We're going to ask, we're calling it a spend down plan, or you will have to give us a check back. So just if you go over it for the year, that's when it's important. Don't freak out. We will be looking at it, the information when we come out to do a review, but don't freak out if you happen to go over your 3-month operating balance. And then on-site monitoring. So if you are a sponsor, you are required to monitor your sites every year. You have to do it 3 times per year per site. This is looking at CACFP, but there's also a section in the application. So I'm going to kind of go over how to fill this out and what it is. So number 1, it says full-time employee, required the number of facilities served. So you use the drop down and tell us what county you're in, and then list how many sites you have in that county. So in this case, we have metro and we have rural. And again, this is kind of designed more for like daycare centers, where we understand like, some of you are schools, so it's all right there on the same place. So it does take into consideration if you have to drive to go to your sites. So here with the rural, they had 3 in Hughes County and 5 sites in FISCAL County. So when they entered this in here, it tells them that it would add these up together down here if you had both metro and rural. But if you just have one or the other, it's going to take the number up here or the number down here and transpose it into C. So because they're rural, they have 8 total sites. They need 0.133 full-time employees. So that comes down here in column C, that they need monitor sites, they need 1.33. So that is in step 1. Then we go to step 2. And what you do is you list the name of the person who's your monitor. Maybe you have more than one person, and how many hours a week are they going to spend monitoring? And then you make sure you add it. And then when it comes down here, the name's blacked out that said that this person was going to work 6 hours a week to do site visits. And so, because you have to do 3 per year, and I'll talk more about that. So down here, this one person was 6, divide that by the 40, it gives them 0.15 FTE. So remember on number 6, it said they need 0.133. As long as this number in section 2 is more than the one in section 1, then you're fine. So this 0.15 is more than 0.133. So this is fine. Maybe you have 2 people that monitor and they divided up 3 hours a week and 3 hours a week. You can do that. Again, just make sure that this information in B on step 2 is greater than step 1C. Because we have to know the names, and we do check to see the names on the monitoring forms to make sure that's the person actually doing the monitoring. Now, again, there's 2 methods to do it. The most common one is each site gets reviewed at least twice unannounced and 1 time announced. Now, you can do them all unannounced if you would like, that's fine, but you cannot do more than 1 announced. And you mark it when you fill out the monitoring form, which is in the CACFP, the sponsoring section. There's one for schools and at risk. It's the same one for schools, centers. It's the same. We have adult daycares and they have their own form that they use. Now, if you're coming onto the program, before you can operate CACFP, you should be doing that monitoring visit. You have to make sure that everything's in place before they can start doing CACFP. So the monitoring forms are also in the resource library. If you would like to use that form, or again, the manual is out there, you can get that as well. Now, with the monitoring visits, they cannot be conducted in a predicative manner, because I've been to some centers and I'm like, so I see that you've been reviewed once this year. When I go say, how many times have you been reviewed? And they'll be like twice, and then I should be getting reviewed in July. I'm like, you should know that they're coming back in July to come do your review. So it cannot be in a predicative manner. You cannot wait 6 months lapse between each visit. And this is an auditor requirement. The state auditor requirement is you need to have a schedule. You can do it on a piece of paper. You can do it in Excel, however you choose to do it, but you have to have your sites listed and when you plan on doing their monitoring reviews. So we only have one institution that's review averaging. If you choose to do review averaging, there's more information about it in the sponsor section. But you do have to have a written plan on a method used to schedule and track the review. So that's why most people just do the 2 unannounced and the 1 announced review. That just makes them easier. So this is just for our centers. If you're a monitor and you go out to a daycare center and they have infants there, this is something that is in it's a memo, but it's also in the CACFP center handbook. This is a Q&A. Number 6 is what happens if you go to a center and there's an 8-month-old and they're not being served solid foods. Just all you have to do is just speak with the center, because it could be a situation the child is premature, they're not developmentally ready, or maybe the parent does not want them eating foods. That's fine. But if they are eating and they're just not writing it down, that is a problem. So all you have to do is, if they're 8 months of age and they seem developmentally ready that they should be eating, just talk and ask about why is that the case. Okay, so here's just some additional information. We have what's called a site maintenance page. When you go into your application and agreement, you cannot change anything in there. If you do need anything changed, just contact our office, contact your person, the person that's in charge of your application, and they can help you out. Now, if you are not licensed at a site, which some of you are not required to have a license, just put none, and then the license capacity will be 0. We have some people that do contract for food, like our Head Start programs. A lot of times they have an agreement with the school. So if you have an agreement with the school or with a different entity, you'll need to fill out the correct agreement to furnish food form, and that does need to be sent to our office every year. And when we talk about agreement to furnish food, usually what this is like, usually what happens is the school district is making spaghetti that day with green beans, peaches, a roll, and milk, and then they deliver it every day to the site and they just serve it out. That is what we talk about when we talk about contracting for food service. If we do have any daycares in here that do contract with the school or a Head Start program, just so you are aware, it is a requirement that schools charge you a certain rate. It is dictated by USDA. If they don't do this, then the school site gets in trouble. And if you are contracting with the school district, then we do ask to get the contracts in July. Because that's the school fiscal years, July 1 to June 30th. And we do understand that the rates come out that time. So just as soon as the rates become available, if you guys, both parties could sign the agreement, that would be fantastic. CACFP forms, just so again, if you're aware, if any forms that you're doing are not in our resource library or not in any of our manuals, and schools, you can use some school forms as well, that's fine. If you are using a form or created a form that's not in there, just make sure your program specialist approves it first. We've had some issues in the past with people creating their own forms and it didn't have the information that we needed. So it resulted in an overclaim, and we don't want that happening to you. With claims, again, you cannot claim past 60 days. You do need to be keeping your payment notices on file. If you need to revise a claim, just make sure you fill out that claim revision form, send it to our office. And then each of our manuals, we have an at-risk manual, we have a center manual, and we have an adult daycare manual. We have a monthly record keeping checklist in there, so it does help you know what monthly records that you need to have available to us, or if we come out to do a review. So again, we are here to help in any way that we can. Your program specialist is the one that does come out to do your reviews. Their information is in the manual. What has been requested to put our office staff in there as well. I think we might be doing that next year. So just kind of FYI, but the child nutrition program specialist, it has their email address, their work cell phone. It is a work cell phone, so you can text them on that in the counties of their territory, but they're the ones that they conduct your review. They are the ones that approve your forms. They'll come out to do any technical assistance. They do your approval visit. They're the ones who know the manual. I was out in the field for 10.5 years, so we know the manual inside and out for the most part. Things change though, but contact them with questions regarding the program. Now, if you do have questions about claims, your application, or anything in the system, contact our office, because that's what we will be here to help you out with. Now we're finished for today. Again, if you need any of our original documents that we have, our blank pages, make sure you check the manual that you have. This is where the blank pages start, or you can go to the resource library, worksheets and center forms, and then multi-sided will have their own separate forms in there. So some people don't use the wrong form. We put some in there as well. So we are finished for today. Thank you guys so much for attending. We are done. I'm going to stick around in case you guys have any more questions. Again, as a reminder, we do not send out certificates for our live trainings. You have to be registered in the training calendar, and then it shows up at the bottom. And if you need that certificate for anything, you can just print that out. I mean, it's not a certificate. You can just print that out showing the training you went to. But our program specialists in our office, that's what they look at. So that's why it's really nice. So you guys don't have to be sending in certificates and stuff like that. We already have them posted. So you guys have a great day. If you need anything else, I will be here to answer your questions, and have a wonderful rest of the week.